Hello there, and welcome to the latest in the series of GK vlogs, where we talk to really interesting people about really interesting stuff, many of them from outside GreenKite, but some of them actually from inside GreenKite as well. And today I'm joined by Luke Appleton, one of the newest members of Team GK. Luke, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, Shan.
Good. So today we're going to be talking about what Luke does and some interesting stuff around looking at tech providers. So Luke, let's kick off then. Let's give our viewers some background on you and what you're doing and what you're going to be doing as part of Team GK.
Yeah, so a bit of background on myself. I've worked for Aviva for about 8 years and then moved over to AXA and worked there for about 7. I started as a test analyst, moved up to becoming a developer, so writing products, insurance products for Aviva. Moved over to AXA as a senior developer, so doing the same job but at a more senior role. And then in the last 3 or 4 years, moved into the change and delivery space, so prioritizing workloads, changes, managing teams, navigating changes with senior stakeholders, and having a look at solutions and putting those into place through project plans. From my point of view, fairly technical. Like I said, I was a developer, dealt with a lot of the mappings in and out of the systems,
Right.
and used to get quite involved if things weren't going quite to plan, putting out fires and things like that.
Did you see a lot of that, Luke? Was there a lot of fire service activity?
I think there always are. A lot of the time we were doing things that we had done similar before, so it wasn't too bad. But when new things came up, there would often be things missed, either in analysis stage or things would just crop up in testing. So you'd have to jump on things. Sometimes things were forgotten, and you'd have to, pull in a favour to say, it's late in the day, sorry about this, but can you just do this for us? So yeah, there was quite a lot of that in my role.
Yeah, people and tech, right?
Yeah.
It's getting people to work together. It's really important, isn't it? And speaking of that, what's the kind of stuff that you're going to be doing as part of GreenKite then, Luke?
So far it's been a really mixed bag with what I've been involved in. So it's been a steep learning curve, which has been great. I've been given a lot of opportunity which I hadn't necessarily had before. Thrown in the deep end, but I quite like that. It's given me a real good opportunity to learn whilst doing, which is how I learn best. But one of the main things that is playing to my strengths is having a look at the software out there, the providers out there who are giving this software as a service to companies playing in the Lloyd's market, MGAs, cover holders, the like, and having a look at how these systems hang together, how easy they are to adopt. I've been a developer myself. I've built products, so from my point of view, particularly interested in the underwriting and the pricing modules a lot of these systems have, and can see how they could be implemented within teams.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually, and a phenomenal combination of personal skills as well as great experience there, Luke. So as you say, one of the key things that you're doing is looking at reviewing what we call tech providers or tech partners, as you know, in GreenKite. So why do you think that this is important for delegated authority firms? And give us just a very, without getting fired because you're giving away trade secrets, Luke, and getting me fired as well because I've lured you in, but some kind of idea about how we think we're going to use that as GreenKite services to delegated authority firms.
Well, I think getting involved in this, it's vast. The amount of providers out there is huge. I think I've started with a list of 55 providers. We're now into the 60s. If you're an MGA looking for a system, knowing where to start is going to be a problem. Now, even going out to 5 to do an RFP of some sort, how do you know which 5 you want to narrow it down to? That there is so much out there, and knowing who is going to be the right fit for your business, not just from a technology point of view, but a big part of this is when you partner up in this capacity with a software provider, you're going to be partnered with them for a long time. do your values align? Are you going to be a key partner for them, or are you going to be bottom of the pile? When you need a change done on their system, are you going to be taken seriously? Are you big enough to have the clout to actually make that change happen, or will you get ignored or put to the back of the queue? And I think that's a big part of what we're looking at as well. It's not just the technology out there, it's how well you can partner with these companies and move forward. But yeah, there are a vast number of providers out there. Do you need what's called an underwriting workbench? That term is thrown out a lot at the moment in the industry. Do you necessarily know what that means? A lot of people might have a different interpretation of what that actually means to them. So it's almost navigating through what requirements do you have as a business, what providers can meet those requirements and meet them well, and then which providers can actually partner up with you and help deliver that. And you are going to be seen as a big fish, and the partnership will work well.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Luke, isn't it? All those aspects that you've just talked about that to evaluate. I mean, there's a qualitative as well as a pure fact statistics quantitative view on that, isn't there? So when you're thinking about those qualitative aspects, I mean, how do you measure a business's ability to partner, whether it's the delegated authority firm or the tech provider that they're considering? So I think that's actually quite a hard question. How do you validate an ability to partner and then to partner with each other? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, it's understanding the size of the firm that these providers are currently dealing with. So obviously if someone's dealing with a certain amount of GWP and they take a percentage of GWP and that's their pricing model, then a lot of the providers will state that is that they're in it with you. If you grow, they grow, and that's how they want to operate. Some of the providers, because I know MGAs, they don't always want to give away a percentage. They would rather work with a license or a flat fee.
Yeah.
So there are some providers that will work with you to come up with something that works both ways. So it's understanding that as well from a pricing point of view.
That's really interesting, Luke. So it's not just about brilliant testimonials and a slick website, right? Although that always helps, obviously. So that sheer scale, 60 and counting providers, is that something in your career that you've seen a real shift in the number and type of providers over the years, Luke? Or have there always been that number of providers kind of in the ether? We just haven't necessarily thought about it, or their marketing's not been as good, perhaps. What do you think?
It's an interesting one with regards to marketing, because before I was doing demos with these companies and getting really into the sort of nitty gritty of the product demo and how everything hangs together, I did some desktop research and I went through this list of 50 odd up to 60, and some companies were giving away a lot of detail on their websites, and you could really see there were demos, there were videos that you could watch, and you could see how everything was hanging together, exactly how they would help you as a business and the products they had. Others didn't really give away anything, and it was a lot harder to actually, if they weren't on my list, I wouldn't necessarily know that they were dealing in that space. So it's quite an interesting one from a marketing point of view. But just on LinkedIn, if you follow the MGA space, you can see that they're adding new companies to that all the time. They're joining that association all the time. So there are more and more cropping up. I think some of them have been out there for a few years, but they're really coming to the forefront now. Yeah, they're really investing in their marketing. So I think there are some out there that are they're really seeing the take up of their system increase, and they're ready to take on more clients as they expand, whilst they had a bit of a proof of concept period. But from my experience, I always dealt with one because of the companies that I worked with. in the commercial space, and they were huge. You know, everyone used them. But you know, from this MGA Lloyd's world, yeah, there are a lot out there, and it does seem to be increasing with people with new ideas about how things should work best.
It's really interesting, isn't it? And I suppose it also makes your job much more interesting, right? If there's lots of people to look at, hard work, Luke, right? I don't envy you working through a list of 60 to even do that desk research stuff, right? But really interesting as well. So I guess if as you go forward with the constructing our own proprietary evaluation framework, which no doubt you'll be sharing with people a bit later in the year or early next year, Luke, if there was one thing that you'd really like to know about each of those 60 businesses on that list, I know it's a bit hard, but what would it be that you couldn't necessarily pick up with diligent desk research and all the rest of it?
I think a lot of the ones I've spoke to at the moment, they deal with APIs or webhooks, whatever you want to call it. They deal with those really, you know, in a really good way. So if you've got a TPA claims provider, then you can link into them really easily. Same with a rating engine. Some of them have rating engines built in. Some of them, if you have a rating engine in mind, again, you can bring that in, and then it becomes a lot more of a reporting tool and a policy admin system. I think doing the demos, a lot of them have been around how easy this low no code platform can be, and you know, basically anyone can take it on with minimal training and build something in-house. However, again, a lot of the demos where I've been talking to people, there's not much take up of that. So it seems to be a big selling point, but not something that many organizations are actually wanting to take on themselves. So, you know, those providers do the work themselves still, and then hand it over as a bit more of a maintenance piece. So I think it's really understanding, you know, from each provider, how likely it is that, you know, what they're advertising as low no code, this is easy, we can pass it over, you can build whatever you want yourselves. How many of their clients actually utilizing that functionality, and how often are they actually building it themselves and then just passing it over for some simple rate change type work rather than product builds as a whole?
Yeah, brilliant. Luke, I could sit here and talk to you for at least another half an hour, but our 10-15 minutes or so is up today, sadly. So thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise, and a little sneak preview of what you're going to be doing for our tech providers and evaluating them in GreenKite. Thanks so much for your time today.
No worries, thank you.